Yeah, just to introduce this game, this is coming from the Striolated Manakin Mayhem Cup. So was a two-stage tournament where we had a group stage where we had 8 groups of 5 participants in each group, and we're now onto a knockout phase. So we have ethmah, who qualified third in their group, and ronster, who qualified in second. So they will be battling it out across a best of 3 match to see who can progress into the next round. So this will be game 1, and I think we are, time permitting, going to be hopefully getting through game 2 and potentially a deciding game 3 as well if we need it today, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, just to introduce your commentators today, so my name is Flan and I'll be talking you through the game alongside my returning co-host Elsie. So welcome Elsie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just a heads up to everybody that I am filling in for Mr. Grubenstein, who got stuck and will be late, so there might be 3 of us on here for a little bit until I get kicked off.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get a very last minute message from, I think it actually came from Grubenstein's girlfriend rather than Grubenstein himself. So yeah, but it's okay. We have a good pool of commentators, and there's always backups available. So yeah, luckily Elsie was around to step in and jump in and take Grubenstein's place, and a very capable replacement. So yeah, should all be good for this game. So as I'm talking, we've got the heads or tails flip going on right now, and I think it looks like ethmah has won the coin flip. It should be a good game. This is 2 good players who've been around for quite a while. Participated in quite a few tournaments. So yeah, it's 2 very experienced players, and should hopefully be a good game.
I can vouch for their skills because I have lost to both of them multiple times, pretty embarrassingly.
Yeah. Well, so I was in ethmah's group for this tournament. So we did have 1 game. I did win that game, but it was a very close one. So ethmah absolutely was a very strong opponent to face. And yeah, as soon as I saw I was in the same group as them, I did think, oh, here we go. But no, it's all good. We both got through, so I think we can both be happy. Right, here we go. Without me blabbing on too much,
too late.
We are now into the game. Always too late. You got to stop me, So, but yeah, so ethmah is going first, and not a great starting hand. Just looking at the tray, which we can see on ronster's side, we do have the yellow throat, which is always a nice pick. So I imagine if ronster can close their spreadsheet that they've just opened. I love a good spreadsheet. Yeah, I love a good spreadsheet, but even I'm not going to have Excel open on the side while I'm playing Wingspan. That is serious dedication there from ronster. But yeah, I think it's not terrible for ethmah with the yellow throat in the tray. I think they can definitely look to pick that up. And the kite, as well as the vulture, can potentially work in that forest. The vulture as well is nice for that first end around goal. So
yeah, I totally took the ball.
ronster's going all in on this spreadsheet. Might just have to drop a message.
Hold
on. Just in case.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he realizes he's sharing his whole screen rather than just the window.
I'll leave it. If it pops up again, I'll message him, but it should be fine. But yeah, so what do you keep here if you're in ethmah situation? I mean, I'm assuming they will go for the yellow throat, but which of those birds do you potentially look to keep alongside?
Well, I would definitely be taking the vulture just for the first end of round goal, and for the potential that ronster takes a predatory bird. But I think it's interesting that ethmah's drawn 2 forest-only bonus birds.
Yeah,
it's not.
And I think if you're going to keep 1, you probably do go for the warbler, just because it will be easy to get down with that food cost.
Yes.
But yeah, it is interesting that they're not looking at keeping the vulture. I think it is always a bit of a gamble when you have something that meets that first end of round goal and you choose not to keep it, because you are then just gambling on, what's going to come up in the tray and in the deck to hope that you can get something that meets that first round. And yeah, if you can't get a bird that qualifies for that, but your opponent does, that's 4 points you're giving away, which is a big point difference to give away so early in the game.
I guess you're referring to giving it away as in tying the end of round goal rather than just losing.
Well, I think, if there is any end of round goal to lose, it's probably that first one, because you do only miss out on a point. But yeah, if you don't get any birds down and your opponent does get one, then you score none and your opponent will score 4. So, but it looks like they've gone for the vulture, so they are at least keeping their options open. Maybe they play it, or they can always discard for food. But
seeing Ronster's hand, yes, the vulture's a great keep.
Yep, absolutely. So, I think of all those birds in the hand, probably the hawk is going to be the stronger one. But I wouldn't be surprised if they keep that burrowing owl as well, just again as something, it's a star nest, and there are a couple of those end of round goals that are nest related, and the rodentologist as well in their hand. I would absolutely be looking to keep the burrowing owl as well. So yeah, if Ronster's going to play 2, the vulture becomes a lot stronger there.
Would you be keeping the burrowing owl even without rats in the feeder?
I think I would. Yeah, I think it's not a great feeder because there are no rodents, but just a couple of food and then you can re-roll it. So yeah, I think I would still look to keep the burrowing owl, because that's a 7-point bird with the rodentologist, with a lot of egg spaces and the star nest as well. So even though the power itself isn't great, I think you can still make it work. I think maybe the only thing that Ronster's missing here is a good wetland bird, and they'd love to take that yellowthroat, but going second they know that's going to be snapped up by ethmah, so they're really just going to have to wait and see and hope that something good comes from the deck for them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting in all the streams that I've watched where the burrowing owl has come into play, I don't think I've ever seen it hit once. I think the bird is cursed. Doesn't like being on YouTube.
No, well, we did have it in one of our games the other day, and yeah, I think it had about 4 attempts and missed everyone. So I think if you play it with the expectation that it's going to miss, and then any extra points you get as a bonus, then I don't think you can be too disappointed. But
so would you take the mourning dove here as a wetland bird for Ronster?
That's a good question. I'd definitely take it. I think you can make it work in the wetlands. Generally, I've seen it work better in the forest, and certainly I think alongside the hawk that they've already got, I think that could be the start of a really nice forest. But yeah, it is one of those where now looking at what's come up in place of that, you're not really going to pick up either the whistling duck or the swift as your wetland bird. So if you don't play the dove, you're kind of gambling on what's going to come up from the top of the deck. So yeah, maybe Ronster will be forced here into going for the dove in the wetlands, but yeah, be interesting to see how they. Oh no, they are going for the swift. Okay,
swift might.
It's an interesting one.
The swift works for technically all 4 end of round goals.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually,
I'm not mad at that.
No, and I think if you are going to play a migratory bird like the swift, you want to do it as soon as possible, because they kind of have a limited shelf life. So you kind of need to get it down at some point in this first round to get most use of it. And yeah, you make a good point. It works for those 2 egg bonuses, egg end of rounds. But yeah, the other 2 are also habitat related, and that's where the swift, is so strong. So yeah, I think it could be a good potential here for Ronster to get that swift down, and who knows if they get it down with the burrowing owl as well this round, they might be able to win that first end of round goal. Yeah, so I think from ethmah's perspective, you see the hawk go down and immediately you are going to play that vulture, so I think that's a good move. Just that second forest bird as well is really going to help with getting that food, so they can look to get that yellowthroat down as soon as possible. But also, they might still look to play the kite. They did pick up the falconer, I believe, with the warbler, so that does make the Mississippi kite a 6-point bird. So that's always a good point score to get with just a single food.
I think I like ethmah's board better in terms of setting themselves up for future rounds. But I think that ronster is setting themselves up well for end of round goals and just like moving on from here. Like, I was a little worried about ethmah at first, but that vulture with the double predatory birds is really gonna pay off for them, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. I think if ronster can look to get all of these birds down in this first round, and particularly if they can get eggs on at least one of the owl or the swift, thanks to their bonus card, they are going to get lots of points on that owl when they do play it. But yeah, I think they will be in a stronger position points-wise, but certainly with ethmah getting that yellowthroat down and already 2 birds in the forest, one of them being the vulture, I think you're right. I think that sets them up nicely for just building up, a stronger card source in their wetland. Yeah, I think that's going to help them through the rest of the game. Card draw is so crucial, so it just gives them more options there.
You'd be worried about the fact that ethmah does not have any brown powers in the forest?
Maybe a little bit. I think generally when I'm trying to build a forest, I like to have at least 1 brown power. So I think if you have 1 brown power and 1 no power or a pink power, I think as long as you're able to get a couple of food and a cache, or maybe 3 food, that's kind of what I look to. If you're only getting a couple of food at a time, it can be a bit slow, particularly towards the end of the game. You draw these big point birds that need 3 food, and suddenly it takes you 2 trips to the bird feeder just to play it. It feels like a bit of a waste. But yeah, I think with the vulture, that can potentially make it a bit easier. But yeah, I guess it just depends how many points they get.
Yeah. Interesting that ronster is still elected to play the mourning dove in the wetlands rather than in the forest. I don't know.
I think. Yeah, I did see this. I did see this picked up in the chat. I think if he was going to play the dove in the forest, it would have gone down before the hawk, because then when he's gaining food, you get that free egg in order to then play it, to then play the hawk alongside it. But yeah, I just wonder. It's not a bad option. I think with the swift moving, they will still be able to get 2 cards, and then obviously the egg on the dove as well. So it does potentially work. But yeah, it's not the strongest of wetlands, and certainly I think ethmah's is looking in the stronger position right now.
Funny that ethmah's in chat attempting to critique ronster on gameplay in the middle of a stream command. It's our job.
Yes, you are allowed to chat here. Everyone who is watching, I think ronster, just because they couldn't hear us at the start, didn't quite get that message through. But yeah, do feel free to comment on the players. But also, if we miss something, I will be keeping an eye on chat. So yeah, do definitely keep the comments coming in. Yeah, I did wonder if maybe ronster was going to go for the cowbird here. Particularly if they do get that burrowing owl down, they're going to have a lot of nest spaces, in particular for that cowbird to lay eggs into. It is always a bit of a concern playing a cowbird when you don't see your opponent setting up something in the grasslands, because you kind of limit how many eggs you can really get from that. But I think it's still a worthwhile play at this point. A nice tray there, the Roadrunner, that's going to go well with their Rodentologist. So again, it's kind of like the Mississippi kite in ethmah's hand. It's not a great power, and even like the burrowing owl, you're not going to get loads of tuck cards from the Roadrunner, but it's still 9 points on its own. So yeah, definitely a strong bird, and there's a rodent in the feeder, so they can certainly look to get that down as soon as possible, really.
I know that ethmah has the American robin in their hand. Do you think that that's a bird they're going to be looking to get down soon, or are they going to build up their wetlands more?
I personally would look to get that down as soon as possible. I think it's just so strong, particularly with the yellowthroat. that's just going to give you lots of cards. And if you have something like the Robin, it almost doesn't matter what cards you draw. If you draw good cards, great, you can look to play them straight away. But even if you don't draw great cards, you can lay eggs in your grasslands and just cycle through those cards. You're going to get points and you're going to see more cards. So yeah, I do wonder maybe they might look to play the crane and just at least get that second wetland bird. So they'll need more wetland birds for this end of round goal as well. But it is generally a good idea to get that second wetland bird just so you're not paying eggs to get more cards. But yeah, I think if they could potentially look to get more food, and then they can get the crane down, and even the kite and the robin, and then when they're drawing cards they're going to get 3 cards, and then suddenly they lay eggs and they're getting a lot of points and cycling through their cards. So that's certainly what I'd be looking to do, and yeah, I think that's a strong position for ethmah to be in at this point of the game.
Yeah, agreed. My worry with birds like the robin, like the tuck and draws that don't go in the wetlands, is that I always end up having good birds that I don't want to be tucking.
Yeah.
I end up wasting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that certainly can be a problem if you don't have a particularly strong wetland. So you need to be able to reliably have access to a lot of cards. Because you're right, if you only have 1 card and you go and do those tuck and draws, if you draw something good, you kind of, okay, I want to play that, and then you're out of cards and you don't have anything to tuck next time you lay eggs. So you need to at least be able to get a few cards whenever you are drawing cards from your wetlands. But yeah, like I said, I think with that yellow throat, and particularly if they can get that second wetland bird down as soon as possible, then yeah, they're just going to have such strong card draw throughout the remainder of this game.
Yeah. I don't know if we've got any new players on the stream right now, but in case anyone was wondering, this is what the turn glitch looks like, because on ethmah's screen it says it's ronster's turn, on ronster's screen it says it's ethmah's turn. So
yeah,
we might have to...
Yeah,
I think ethmah might be frozen right now, so...
I think you're right. I think they might have just lost the stream for a little bit. Yeah, it has dropped off, so... hopefully they will get in as soon as possible. We do have 2 family members of ethmah on the stream, so I'm sure they will be on hand in
to start the stream again.
to run over into his bedroom or wherever to get things sorted again. But yeah, hopefully we'll get this up again soon. I think it is still ethmah's turn, so
yes.
Yeah, should hopefully not be missing too much of the action.
Well, all the action's over here in ronster's hand, I think.
Yeah, I think they have got some good options. They've got 3 rodent birds that are big points. So if they are able to get some of them down, that with their rodentologist bonus card, that's just going to get them even more points. Certainly, I think for this end of round goal, they might be looking at getting that night heron down, just because you at least get the second bird. But then even it does kind of work quite well with the dove, because one of the problems with the night heron in the wetlands, I find at least, is if you're not getting eggs, you're going to run out pretty quickly if you are drawing cards. But the dove is then going to give you that egg back. So yeah, I think they can potentially look to get the night heron down, and it will help with this end of round goal and their bonus. But then also, when you're drawing cards, you can get food at the same time. So they could potentially even look to get another wetland bird if they draw it. Or, like I said, another one of those rodent birds they've got in their hand, because that's just going to get them more points from their bonus card. Okay, so ethmah's taken their turn off screen. It looks like they just went for food, so yeah, I don't think we've missed too much, but
yeah,
hopefully we're able to get them back. It looks like we do have ethmah's brother going and giving him a hard time, so but yeah, hopefully we'll get back soon.
There we go. I have ethmah's stream back.
Excellent. I will get that back up.
Nothing has happened. I think they took food.
Yeah, I think ethmah just went for food, so I think that made sense, because yeah, that means they can get the whooping crane down now, and they will still have enough food in their hand to get both the robin and the kite down. So yeah, I think from ethmah's perspective, you get that whooping crane down. Hope you get a nice bonus. That's quite a nice one they've got there, the wetland scientist. They've already got 2 out of the 3 for that lower threshold, so Yeah, I think ethmah's remainder of this round is pretty straightforward. They can get those 2 birds down, and then draw cards at least once, and then that at least gives them something to cycle through with their robin when they lay eggs in the grassland. So I think that's a good position for ethmah to be in right now.
Having some internet difficulties on my end. Can't tell if they're frozen or not playing. So.
Yeah, I did just have ethmah's stream briefly disappear, but it did come back up again. So.
Ronster keeps trying
hopefully...
to. We are getting all of the glitches this time. Ronster, it's trying to play the Black Crown Night Heron and it's saying that he's gaining food. So I think we're going to lose Ronster for a second while he relogs. But.
Yeah. That's weird.
Okay.
I know sometimes you get these weird glitches where you try and do something in the board view and it doesn't let you do it. I will just commend both players for actually playing in board view. I think that it makes our lives a lot easier because we're actually able to see everything all at once. But yeah, I know I've had it before where like you try and lay an egg on a certain bird or do something like that, and in board view it just doesn't like it, so you have to jump back over to the habitat view. But it looks like they managed to figure their way out there. So yeah, I think the night heron, with that rodentologist, that's 11 points for that bird they've just played. So that's huge. It's going to help for this end of round, like we said. And yeah, just that second wetland bird, give them access to more cards, and they can get food at the same time. So I like what Ronster's doing here. I think they're building up nicely.
Not certain Ronster has enough of a grassland to support that heron yet, though. That's my only worry. Just having no birds in the grassland.
But yeah, I think they have enough in their hand to build something up. So
true.
Once they see ethmah start to get the robin in particular, but also the kite down in their grasslands, once I think ethmah starts building that up, that's going to be the signal for Ronster to get the cowbird down. So that's going to get them some eggs, which is nice. But also, once they then add to that with either the roadrunner or the owl, they get that extra egg when they are activating their grasslands. So I think they can keep it sustained for a little bit, at least with the dove giving them eggs in the wetland as well. So yeah, I think they have some options. They might go for food here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go for cards and use that night heron's power.
Surprised nobody's gone for the oriole yet. I think it's a pretty strong bird, but
yeah, I think in the right situation it can be a really strong bird. The bird feeder's not in a great position for the oriole right now. Getting those 2 cherries can be quite difficult. It's certainly one of those birds where if I get it in my starting hand and there is a cherry in the feeder, then I'm going to look to play it, because it is so strong. It's 9 points. That star nest can be so helpful, and it just helps with getting extra food in your forest as well. But yeah, it maybe at this point feels a little bit too late. It looks like ethmah's drawn some okay birds. The chickadee, they might look to get that down, but again, borderline whether it's slightly too late.
Say too late on the chickadee.
The swifted is an interesting
one.
Yeah, well, I think the oriole, the chickadee, they could get that down now. They've got the food to play it. The oriole, it would take at least a couple of turns really to get that food, unless they're going to pay 2 for 1, which, when your food source isn't great, I don't think you can really afford to be doing that too much. So yeah, it is interesting they picked up the white-throated swift, so I wonder if they think that their card draw is strong enough to be able to afford to use that tuck and lay power.
Is it a potential deny
they just
for Ronster?
were denying it. It might potentially be, yeah. I think that's the other option. But again, you look at Ronster and you think, okay, they haven't got that strong of a card draw. They're only getting 2 cards a turn, so how many of those are they going to be able to afford to tuck behind the swift? But yeah, I think they might look at going for this mockingbird here. I think that could potentially be a good option for them. Yeah. Okay. Now, what food do they go for? Because this is going to signal really what card they're going to look to play.
No.
Potentially, I think. Yeah. Okay. They keep their options open with the grub at least. They can.
I think they're going for roadrunner because those are the 2 stated food costs, and then it's an omnivore symbol. So.
Yeah, Potentially. I think they're keeping their options open. If you can play that Willet and steal this end of round goal, suddenly it becomes worth an extra 3 points. So, if you can get 7 points effectively from that Willet for just 1 food, that's such a strong move. So I think they will keep their options open and just kind of wait and see what ethmah does, if it looks like ethmah's going to play something or not. But ethmah's been quite aggressive here with the card draw, so Chipping Sparrows come up, which is nice. They could potentially play that in the forest, but it does go in the grasslands as well, so I'll be interested to see what they do there. But yeah, they've certainly built up a nice card supply, so I think once they do get that Robin down, they can afford to be laying eggs for quite a long time without any danger of being stuck in a position where you've got nothing left to tuck.
Yeah, I think that is a good point, that ethmah has the Robin. I think ethmah has.
Yeah, he still does. Okay. It's hiding somewhere in his hand.
Yeah, all of them have so many cards that you can't see the birds anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting position for ethmah because they've got quite a few strong birds that need a lot of food. I think they are going to need to rely on that vulture getting some food for them. If they end up spending too many turns in their forest, not scoring points and just getting food, it does have the potential to slow you down, particularly the later in the game you go. It looks like they're going to get rid of one of these forest birds, but I think really you need something else in that forest. They have got lots of cards. They can maybe look to discard some of those extra cards just to get more food and really help them get more birds down. But yeah, maybe they're changing their mind on the Swift, which I think that's probably the card I would get rid of. I don't think they really are looking to tuck and get eggs from that. I think the Robin is the better option. You can cycle through more cards that way.
Yeah. I'm glad they decided to keep the chickadee, because I think that's one of their only point generating birds in the forest.
Yep. Yeah, I think really it's whether they go for the chickadee or the chipping sparrow. They're both going to get a point. But obviously the chipping sparrow, they might look to build that up in their grasslands. I do just wonder and worry a little bit if they have enough egg spaces. So if you are getting too many eggs from your grasslands, you really can't afford to activate it too many times. But yeah, good draw I think there for ronster. As soon as the red start comes up, that's such a strong bird, and particularly when they've only got those 2 forest birds at the moment. So the red start is just going to unlock a lot more options for getting food, and yeah, they've got quite a few big point birds that need quite a bit of food, so I think that's potentially a good option for them.
Yeah, I think ronster's drawn cards for the last 3 turns, so I'm hoping they've decided to be done with the wetlands for a little bit, because play sort of stalled out a little. So
yeah, I think they could afford to, because they had the night heron, so they were getting cards, but they were also able to get some food to play some of those cards as well.
I was wondering.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they play. Yeah,
I think they might have been using the night heron to try to avoid skipping fox power for a little bit, but I'm not 100% on that. Since they've kind of
now this is interesting. Because I can only assume if he's going for food here. Oh yeah, he has got the Swift. That's true. So I'm assuming he will want to get the red start down before. Yeah, you don't want to block the Swift, so I think that makes sense.
Don't want to block the Swift, and getting the red start down bumps you back up to 3 food still, even with only 2 birds.
Yeah.
3 food.
Yeah, and actually moving that Swift over as well. They could get that in the wetlands, so that's helped them tie this end of round as well. So I think that's worked out. That's worked out okay.
That we both completely missed.
Yeah, I'm not too embarrassed to say that I completely missed that option. So, but yeah, some good points in the chat as well. So yeah, I think ronster, they've had that cowbird in their hand for a while. And not really played it. I can kind of sympathise a little bit, because you look at ethmah's board and they're not really building up anything in the grasslands, and I think for me, as soon as I see that, and particularly if I see something like the chipping sparrow go down, I'm going to look at that and think, they're not going grasslands this game, so I'm not going to get many eggs from this cowbird. But But yeah, they have got the American Crow in their hand as well, which is a nice option to play in their grasslands. So I think they could definitely look to build that up with some of those other rodent birds they've got for big points. And yeah, they're gonna need to start building something up in their grasslands eventually. So I think they have certainly got some good options in their hand right now.
So seeing ethmah start to sort of like shun the grasslands by playing the chivering sparrow in the forest, would you start activating your hawk, since they're obviously going to be going to forest a lot more, or would you keep skipping it?
It's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if ronster's been skipping it too much. Obviously, they have had
they've skipped it
more
once.
success.
They've only activated it twice.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because, you know, certainly early game, I would value the food for ethmah as being worth more than the point for ronster. So if I'm in ronster's position, I probably do skip that, at least in the first round or so. But yeah, I think the later it goes in the game, and as soon as you see your opponent start to build up something strong in the forest, you know, you should never be afraid to give your opponent something they have easy access to. So, you know, if you have something like a hummingbird and you see your opponent has lots of forest birds, yeah, you can activate it. The same goes for some of these cards that go in the wetlands that give cards to your opponent. You know, if you already might look at ethmah's board and think, well, they're already getting a lot of cards, so I can afford to give this to them. So yeah, I think at this point in the game you want the points if you're a ronster, so absolutely I'd be activating that and not worry too much about the food I'm giving ethmah.
Agreed. I'm wondering if, because ethmah's seeming to pivot to forest here, if they're going to play the chickadee or not, or if they're going to save that space for the robin.
Yeah, it feels like a bit slow at this point.
Did
if you play,
did ethmah have the forester goal, or was it the wetland scientist? I think it was wetland.
He had wetland scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's already got the 3 down for that, which is nice. I'm trying to remember what he's got. Oh, he's got the rodent. He's got the falconer. I think so.
I'm guessing that's a birds with some kind of nest. That third one.
Yeah.
But I can't remember.
It might have been bowl nests. In which case, obviously the chipping sparrow makes sense, and they'll need to get that robin down as well. And might be potentially why they took, although they will already have the 4 bowl nests at that point. So.
ethmah's having some issues about taking 2 rooms or 3. They've been going back and forth on it.
I think they're just trying to work out what they're going to do, because if you are going to go for that robin in the forest, then you don't need to discard that card. You need that for tucking, and you're going to get more than enough food. But if they are going to pivot to grasslands now, you want to kind of do that as soon as possible, so get as many of these birds down in your grasslands, so that when you are laying eggs, you're at least making the most of it. But yeah, it's quite an interesting position here, because both players were getting to sort of the middle of round 3. This is where you want to have your point scoring engine set up. You spent the first round or 2 getting birds and getting enough food and getting those habitats set up, but when you're heading into the end of this 3rd round and the start of the 4th round, you need your points to come from somewhere. I know both players have got some big point birds, but yeah, there's 2 egg related end of round goals here, and neither of them have a particularly strong source of eggs, so it does worry me a little bit.
Put the robin in the
but it looks like it looks like ethmah is building up, at least starting to. So I wonder they might go for the kite alongside that. Like we said earlier, it's not a great point power, but it's 6 points with their falconer, so it's always a good option.
Funny watching ethmah.
I wonder.
Robin goes down in grasslands, immediate cowbird play.
Yeah.
Right after.
Yeah, that was the point.
Yeah.
That was the point I was going to make. I think it's interesting. You see that, and that probably was a reaction from ronster. They've held onto that cowbird for a little while. As soon as you see your opponent pivot over to their grasslands and get these tucking birds or big point scoring birds in their grasslands, then yeah, you get that cowbird down, because it's a bit of a defense mechanism. Obviously, if ethmah is going to commit and lay a lot of eggs, you're going to benefit from that. But in some cases it can put your opponent off laying eggs, so they might have to make a slightly suboptimal move just to avoid giving you points as well. So yeah, I think that was good timing from ronster. They kept it up their sleeve for as long as possible, but they have managed to get that down now, so I think that's worked nicely for them.
I think that's one of the marks of a good player is being able to keep tabs on what your opponent's doing and react to them.
Yeah.
Because I know I am not the best player myself. I might sound like I know what I'm talking about, but there is not a lot of good gameplay from me. But I think I know I lose track of what my opponent's doing, and being able to just like play the bird as an immediate reaction to any grassland bird going down is a really strong response.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is so important to be aware of what your opponent's doing. So we have seen it quite a bit in this game. Both players flicking back and forth to look at their opponent's board and just at least assess the situation. So particularly with these pink powers. So we see ethmah with their vulture. You want to be looking at your opponent and seeing, okay, they've got the burrowing owl down now as well. So that's another predatory power that I can benefit from. And yeah, it works the other way. As soon as you see your opponent build up their grasslands, you get that cowbird down. So I think both players have done a good job here of keeping tabs on what their opponent is doing. Certainly that's so important in a two-player game. You almost have to pay attention to what your opponent is doing just as much as what you're doing yourself.
Yeah. I wonder if ronster is going to be skipping the burrowing owl power when they lay eggs. Because of that vulture, if they're going to take the whatever, it's the end game approach.
Yeah, I think I would take the whatever, it's the end game. With that owl, it's not a great power anyway, so you can almost view it as if you try and it's successful, you get the point and you're happy. And if it fails, you can still be happy because you've not given your opponent food. So
yeah.
You can kind of take the positive spin and be happy whatever happens. That's something I like to do. It stops you getting too frustrated at watching your predatory powers miss constantly, which seems to happen more often than I'd like.
I've lost games to vultures before, so I have a hatred for those powers now.
Yeah.
My opponent played.
Yeah.
I got double vultured when I had predatory birds in every single habitat, and
it can happen. Yeah, I've got a particularly strong memory of a 2v2 game I played a few months ago where the first bird I played was a vulture, and I must have got at least 15 food from it, just because every single other player played either some of the hawks or the owls or eagles or these kinds of birds, and it just gave me so many food. You look at it on the surface, you go, oh, it's only a point or two, it's not that great, but it saves you so many trips to the bird feeder potentially. And every turn you don't spend gaining food, you can spend that turn playing a big point bird or laying eggs for lots of points. So if you can really save those turns where you're not scoring points and instead use them to score points, it just helps really maximise your scoring potential in this game.
Got a pro tip from Flan here. Don't use your turns to not score points, use them to score points.
Exactly. 100%.
Which sounds like stupid advice,
big brain
but
move.
It's not. Like, that's an important thing in this game, is maximizing your turns.
Yep. Yeah, I've made this point before on stream. You only have 26 turns in this game. You know exactly how many turns you've got. So you can't afford to waste any of them really doing something pointless. You want to be using every single turn to its potential and maximizing your score. Absolutely. Whether that's laying eggs or whether that's running a nice forest or wetland engine or playing some of these big point birds we can see the players have got. So yeah, you wanna use every turn to its potential.
Yeah. I'm not certain what the plan is for ethmah here, because I saw him pick up the kinglet a couple of turns ago, and I don't know if they're planning to do a double play with that oriole in their hand, but like
potentially. I think it's good to keep that option open. I think they may be looking at what ronster's doing, thinking, okay, if I can get some free food from the owl through the vulture, then potentially they can look to go with the double bird there. But yeah, these double birds are strong, but it's just when you don't have a great food source, it's always a pain because you might have to spend one extra turn gaining that food to play it, and yeah, you could have spent that turn doing something else, scoring more points. So maybe they've got an eye on their bonus card if they do manage to do the kinglet and the oriole as a double play. that maximises their boldness bonus, which is always good. So yeah, that might be something they're bearing in mind.
Yeah. ethmah's just got so many bonus cards at this point.
Yep. Yeah, I think they will look to have ronster on the bonus cards, although ronster only with one bonus card, but it is very strong for them. That rodentologist is scoring them 8 points right now.
Oh.
Which is huge. So I do wonder. I think they'll probably look to get the crow down now, and then maybe use the eggs from that crow to get food for their. I think it's the hermit thrush is that forest bird they've got. So that could potentially be a good play for them at the end of this game and get some points. So yeah, I don't mind what Ronster's doing here. I think they are building their grasslands up. It maybe feels a little bit slow. I would have maybe liked to have seen this already set up going into round 4 rather than playing these birds during round 4. You're almost a couple of turns behind where you could have been, but it is good to see them considering getting this set up and getting some eggs for this end of round goal, but also getting some of these big points birds down to really help their score at the end of the game.
So picky, Flynn. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game. That's going to be my call.
No. I mean, we've had a little bit of a spoiler there with ethmah looking at their scores, so
we're going to just assume that's going to improve significantly and leave it alone.
Yeah, I think 51 with 4 turns to go is a little bit lower than certainly what I've come to expect from ethmah. So, but they have got some big point birds. So another success with their vulture, which is definitely good for them. The more food they can get, the more of these birds they can potentially look to get down. They do have a predator in their hand with the double rodent, so I think they'll play that. Yep, that's a good move. That helps with their falconer bonus, so that's a 7-point play right there. And potentially they might look to even discard some of this food for eggs if they want and just get more points. So yeah, I think this could be quite close. I'm trying to remember who's winning at the moment on these end of rounds, but it could be quite close, although certainly Ronster I think has got more points down on the board,
Ronster won
which
the first,
could well make the difference.
And ethmah won the third.
Yeah. Yes, and I think they tied the second one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's neck and neck I think on the end of rounds. Bonuses
they
probably
tied the first
I think,
two, actually.
Yes, they did.
Ronster keeps pulling it up for about half a second and then closing it.
Yeah,
So...
yeah, you gotta be quick.
Yep.
So it looks like Ronster, they probably did a little bit of mental maths in their head and just realised, okay, it's not worth playing the crow. I'm better off spending that turn laying eggs instead. It is a little bit of a risk, you're kind of gambling on those predatory powers because you could quite easily run that grasslands for 2 turns and not get any successes from either the Roadrunner or the Owl, which is always a bit disappointing. But equally, Flux on their side, they could get a couple of successes, and those points could really come back and help them win this.
Roadrunner, I think, overperforms on stream, so we've got an overperformer. So let's go. Okay, that's the Roadrunner.
We've had a lot of conspiracy theories about these rolling dice ones, so I don't want to talk about it because I don't believe a word.
Yeah, I am not on.
I'm just here to say that it's absolute trash. The birds work exactly as intended. There you go, 4 dice, you get
success.
You only get 1 point though.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's good. I think that was 6 points for Ronster. Yes. They discarded the food for 4 eggs, so that's certainly a lot better than that turn could have been. That said, that food that it is given ethmah is going to be huge because they can now get the kinglet and the oriole down. That is 7 points on its own after the eggs, but also gives them 3 more points from their bonus card. So that's a 10-point play, which is just so strong for ethmah. I think they might end up sacrificing this end of round goal for it, but I think that's worth it. They scored a lot of points
their last turn. They've got this end around goal because Ronster's spots are full.
That's a good point. Yep, they can. They've already got 4 there, so they can add another 3.
Yeah.
And Ronster.
Ronster has 1 more.
Yeah,
but
they can only get up to 6, so yeah, that's actually worked out perfectly for ethmah, you know. And yeah, if they do get food here, as they have done from the Roadrunner, that's just another point for them.
Yeah.
They can discard that for an egg. So yeah, I feel like this is going to be quite close. That vulture has certainly worked overtime in these last couple of rounds. You know, it looked like it maybe wasn't gonna help ethmah that much, particularly in the first couple of rounds, but yeah, ronster's had a lot of success in this final round at least, so that's helped. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see what ethmah's doing here.
Freezing.
I'm not sure. I think you wanna be taking the food, because I think maybe they're thinking for their own hunting power, but they've got to remember that ronster has a hunting power as well. So you know, if they had taken that food, suddenly there's no dice outside of the bird feeder.
But
yeah,
that was ronster's last turn, so there's no point in doing it to screw him over.
Yeah, I think if they'd taken the food, that's a guaranteed point. You know, you discard that for the egg. It doesn't make sense to not take the food just to give your hawk a chance at having a successful hunt, because most likely it's not going to be successful. But yeah, so ethmah does manage to win that end of round. I feel like this is going to be quite close. Oh, and ronster's just skipped straight through there. And it was indeed very close. ethmah has just nicked it.
Ronster has closed out of the game.
I think it came down to that last food. Certainly ethmah getting that extra food to get both the kinglet on the Oriole down. That was a huge play for them at the end of the game. That scored a lot of points. And yeah, that could well have helped make that 3-point difference. So yeah, good game from both players. Definitely swung both ways. I certainly didn't know how it was going to go at the end of the game. So yeah,
I was wrong.
Good performance.
I was betting on ronster, but that was that was before the double play, so that's why I didn't say it out
exactly.
loud.
No, I think with about 2 turns to go, I would have backed ronster as well. But yeah, that extra food,
Okay. Ronster, hold
that was so crucial.